Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because, well, we're about to unpack something truly fascinating. Meditation can sometimes feel a bit, I don't know, mystical. But today, we're looking at it through a strictly scientific lens. We're literally going to treat it like a scientific recipe for your brain. We're deconstructing a recent clinical trial that breaks down exactly what happens to your memory, your attention, and your overall mood when you isolate very specific meditative techniques.
So let's just dive right in. Look, if you're constantly feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and struggling to keep your focus intact in our modern, hyper-distracted world, trust me, you are definitely not alone. I mean, between the endless notifications, demanding schedules, and just the general chaos of life, holding onto your attention span right now feels a bit like trying to catch water in your bare hands, right? And that is exactly why this clinical trial is so incredibly relatable. This wasn't conducted on monks sitting in some silent retreat. It was tested on normal people just like us, dealing with the daily grind, looking for a completely practical way to hack their focus and lower their stress.
Now, to really grasp this study, we first need to define what exactly the researchers were testing. The core subject of this clinical trial is a practice called Preksha dhyana. Basically, it's a multi-step meditation process with roots deeply embedded in ancient Jain wisdom. Its primary goal, training your attention and your awareness to foster psycho-emotional well-being. Think of it kind of like a systematic workout for your consciousness. But unlike general mindfulness, which can be a bit broad, Preksha dhyana is completely unique because it uses very specific, actionable steps to anchor the mind.
So let's look at the actual ingredients of this experiment. The researchers down at Florida International University wanted to isolate these specific techniques to see exactly how each one, individually, alters the human brain. On one side, we have Mahapran, which is a sound-focused technique. Participants take a deep breath and emit a continuous bee-like buzzing sound to achieve intense auditory concentration. Then on the other side, we have Lesha dhyana, a color-focused technique. For this one, participants sit quietly and visualize a bright, luminous green point right in the absolute center of their forehead. Because, as it turns out, bright green is scientifically associated with attention arousal. So we've got an auditory buzzing technique pitted against a visual green dot technique.
To actually test this out, the researchers grabbed 142 healthy college students, people right in the thick of incredibly stressful exams and social pressures, and they divided them up into 4 distinct testing groups. Group 1 did only the sound buzzing. Group 2 did only the green color visualization. Group 3 did a combination of both. And finally, there was a control group that didn't meditate at all. It's a brilliant setup because this structure allowed the researchers to perfectly isolate the variables.
And here is honestly the best part. The commitment required from these students was surprisingly manageable, which is great news for our own busy schedules. This was not some all-day affair. The recipe involved just 25-minute meditation sessions, practiced only 3 times a week over the course of an 8-week college semester. This is absolutely crucial because it proves you don't need to completely abandon your life to see real cognitive benefits. These were just brief little sessions embedded right into a normal, highly stressful routine.
Okay, but to figure out if these 25-minute sessions were actually working, the scientists had to meticulously measure the mind. And they used a battery of highly validated academic tests to do it. They used the AWMA-2SF to measure short-term working memory, which is basically your brain's mental scratchpad. They used the PANA scale to measure mood, tracking both positive and negative emotional states. And finally, they used the CPD-3, which is a continuous performance test, to track attention capacity and how impulsive the students were. So, in plain English, they were rigorously measuring memory, mood, and focus.
All right, so first up, let's look at testing the individual ingredients to see how each specific technique performed entirely on its own.
Let's start with the sound-only group, the students who spent their sessions focusing purely on that bee-like buzzing breath. The results here were incredibly promising. Compared to their baseline, these students experienced a really significant decrease in negative affect, meaning they literally felt less anger, disgust, and fear. Plus, on their attention tests, they reduced their commission of errors. They were just way less impulsive and way more attentive. And an awesome added bonus, the researchers noted this buzzing technique was actually incredibly easy for total novices to learn.
Now this brings us to a really crucial number from the data, 0.53. In statistics, this represents a strong positive correlation found during the study. See, the researchers discovered that the longer the students could physically sustain that maximum buzzing breath during the sound meditation, the better their listening recall memory actually became on their cognitive tests. Literally, training their breath and their vocal cords directly correlated to an enhanced ability to remember what they were hearing. How cool is that?
Okay, so what about the color-only group? These are the students sitting in silence, visualizing that bright green dot on their foreheads. Did that work? Absolutely it did. Just like the sound group, the color group successfully decreased their negative feelings and reduced their attention errors, but they also saw a significant improvement in their listening recall and processing speeds. So simply focusing on an imaginary bright green dot proved to be a highly powerful, standalone ingredient for the brain.
But here is where things get really exciting. Let's look at the power of combination. What exactly happens to the brain when we bake these two validated ingredients together into a single 25-minute practice?
Well, the results of the combination were nothing short of profound. When you look at the striking data from the combined group, you can clearly see the dramatic, widespread improvements. Whether we're talking about the massive drop in negative affect or the really sharp decline in commission of errors, combining the techniques created the absolute most traumatic changes across the board. It's literally a case where the whole is truly greater than the sum of its parts.
Let's put some hard numbers to that. For the group that combined both the sound and the color focus, they experienced a massive 19.8% drop in negativity. Just pause and think about that for a second. What would a nearly 20% reduction in stress, anger, and anxiety actually feel like in your everyday life? And that's just from 25 minutes of targeted practice a few times a week.
And it wasn't just about feeling less bad either. It was about feeling more good. That exact same combined group saw a 10.4% increase in positive affect, feeling noticeably more enthusiastic, alert, and active. And what's absolutely fascinating here is that the significant boost in positivity was only achieved when both techniques were used together. Neither the sound-only group nor the color-only group managed to hit this level of positive mood enhancement on their own.
And the cognitive boosts? Just as impressive. By combining the techniques, the students radically boosted their working memory. Digital recall, which is your ability to hold and remember numbers, jumped by 9.7%. Listening recall, remembering words and sentences, surged by 11.1%. And spatial recall, mentally manipulating shapes and remembering sequences, improved by 5.7%. In real-world terms, guys, this is the difference between instantly forgetting the phone number someone just told you and effortlessly holding it right there in your mind. So what exactly is happening to your physical brain on meditation here? Why does simply adding a green dot to a buzzing sound create such a massive shift in how we process information and regulate our emotions?
Well, the answer comes down to our physical hardware. Different meditation ingredients literally activate entirely different areas of your brain. Previous neuroimaging studies have shown us that focused visual meditation, like our green dot, activates the prefrontal cortex and the parietal lobe, which enhances cognitive focus and spatial memory. Meanwhile, breathing and sound-based practices actually activate the limbic system, which is what regulates our mood and emotion. So when you combine the sound and the color, you aren't just meditating harder, you are actively engaging entirely different regions of your brain all at once, essentially giving yourself a full brain workout.
The researchers wrapped up their study with a really powerful statement, and I just want to read it directly to you. They said, "These results underscore a need to examine individual components of meditation practices in order to individualize treatment approaches for attention disorders in young adults." This is a huge shift in how we view this stuff. Instead of treating meditation as just some vague, one-size-fits-all cure, science is actively proving that we can isolate these specific techniques to create personalized, highly targeted treatments for very real-world issues like ADHD.
Which leaves us with the ultimate takeaway today. We have deconstructed the recipe. We know for a fact that the buzzing sound calms the limbic system and improves listening memory. We know the green visual dot engages the prefrontal cortex and sharpens spatial focus. And we definitely know that combining them yields absolutely incredible results in just 8 short weeks. So, my question to you is, which scientifically backed ingredient, the sound, the color, or both, will you combine into your own daily routine to hack your focus starting today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.